Emma was 10 steps from the curb when Bruno lunged. The German shepherd growled so violently it stopped every parent, teacher, and child in their tracks. He didn't bark for fun. He barked like something was wrong, terribly wrong. And when they finally checked the van the man had been driving, the school froze in disbelief. It was a mild Tuesday afternoon in early spring, the kind where you don't need a jacket but still hold on to it just in case. At Willow Ridge Elementary, the final bell rang like any other day. Children poured out of classrooms like a stream of joy, backpacks bouncing, shoelaces untied, sticky hands from lunchroom jelly cups still smudged with glitter from art class. Officer Martinez stood near the front gate, sipping lukewarm coffee from a travel mug and keeping one eye on the main pickup lane. At his side sat Bruno, the school's K-9, a retired police dog trained in search, rescue, and crowd awareness. Bruno wasn't there to sniff lockers or hunt drugs. He was there to watch, to feel, to react when nobody else could. At 2:48 p.m., Emma Carson, a fourth grader with a lopsided braid and sparkly unicorn backpack, walked out of the east side exit, not the main one. That door led closer to the staff lot, but sometimes kids used it if their parents parked out back. Emma's mother usually picked her up by the front office, but today someone different was waiting. A white cargo van, the type painters or movers might drive, sat idling near the rear fence. The side door was already slid open. A man stood outside it, waving with one hand a paper in the other. "Emma," he called. "Hey, sweetheart. Your mom asked me to pick you up today. Said she had an emergency and couldn't make." Emma stopped. She'd never seen him before, but he smiled big like he knew her. And he even said her name. He hesitated. "My mom didn't say anything," Emma replied, hugging her backpack tighter. The man chuckled, stepping closer. "She probably forgot. Busy day. Huh. I promise I'm safe. See?" He held up a paper that looked like a printed email. Went too far for her to read clearly. That's when Bruno noticed. The German shepherd's ears perked. He rose slowly. He locked eyes with the man, then with Emma, then the van, and then he exploded. Bruno surged forward with a deep guttural growl that turned every adult head nearby. Officer Martinez almost dropped his coffee as he grabbed the leash, but Bruno wasn't waiting for permission. His bark was sharp, fast, relentless, the kind that cuts through conversations and makes you instinctively step back. Emma froze. The man's smile vanished. "I didn't do anything," he said, quickly, backing up toward the van. "The dog's nuts." Bruno didn't care. He lunged once, barking louder, his body angled protectively between Emma and the man. By then, Martinez was moving fast. Step away from the vehicle now. The man's eyes darted toward the open driver's door. He hesitated, then made a dash for it. Wrong move. Martinez unclipped Bruno. 3 seconds later, the man was face down in the grass with Bruno's front paws pinning him to the ground and 100 kids staring from behind the safety gate. Backup arrived. Within minutes, the man was cuffed, the van searched. Emma was led gently back inside the school where the counselor gave her warm apple juice and sat beside her until her real mom, shaken and pale, showed up in tears. Inside the van, police found a Second cell phone. It had no service plan, but was connected to open Wi-Fi networks and had dozens of photos saved in its camera roll, including 3 of Emma. One taken last week, one that day, and one zoomed in from behind a schoolyard fence. He wasn't a family friend. He wasn't sent by anyone. He was a predator who had learned her name, likely online, and came prepared with a fake story and a warm smile. At the precinct, Officer Martinez paced outside the interview room, shaking his head. He knew how to blend in, he muttered. Right time, right place, calm tone. He probably could have fooled me, but he didn't fool Bruno. The detective replied. No, Bruno doesn't care how calm someone looks. He only cares if something's off. Emma went home safe that night. She didn't say much during dinner, but her mom stayed by her side the whole evening. She hugged her tighter at bedtime. Read 2 stories instead of 1. And when Emma asked, "Can Bruno come live with us?" her mom just smiled and said, "I wish he could." School. The next day, Bruno sat near the front gate like always. Kids came up to pet him, even the shy ones. They gave him snacks, stickers. One little boy left a folded crayon drawing by his paws, a picture of Bruno standing in front of a big van with flames behind it, and a word bubble that just said no. Principal Harris called an assembly that afternoon. No formal speeches, just a quiet thank you, a round of applause, and a golden tag slipped onto Bruno's collar. That red protector of the pack. That night, the local news ran the story. The segment was short. They didn't show the man's face. They didn't say the word predator or abduction or anything too heavy for the 6 p.m. audience. But they did say this. Tonight, one family sleeps a little easier because a retired K-9 named Bruno refused to let a little girl trust the wrong person. He didn't need words to do it, just a bark and a heart trained to protect. The next morning, the buzz around Willow Ridge Elementary wasn't about math tests or recess drama. It was all about Bruno. He barked so loud I thought the gym was on fire, one boy said at the breakfast table. My mom says he should work for the FBI. Another whispered in the hallway. But for Officer Martinez, the adrenaline had barely worn off. He arrived early, Bruno at his side, and they both walked the perimeter of the school like clockwork, a little slower than usual, a little more deliberate. Bruno's tail swayed casually, but his eyes stayed alert, scanning. The staff was different now, too, tighter, more careful. Teachers triple-checked the pickup list. The front office locked the secondary gate that used to stay open for convenience. And for the first time in years, parents were reading the safety emails and replying. At 9:07 a.m., Principal Harris called Officer Martinez into his office. "Thanks for coming," he said, motioning toward the chair. "Coffee?" Martinez shook his head. Already had 2. Harris handed over a folder. "This came in from the department late last night. Thought you'd want to see it." Inside were printed screenshots from the suspect's confiscated phone. Most were blurry, some were from a distance, but 2 were unmistakable. One was a shot of Emma walking home from a birthday party 3 weeks ago. Backpack, same unicorn, keychain and all. The other was a zoomed-in picture of the school gate, with timestamps matching the week before. The folder also included a name. Gregory Denton, age 47. Not registered in the area, no employment history at the school, but his digital footprint told a different story. Denton had been active in several online chat rooms under aliases like Carrot4You and Safe Driver 38. He frequented forums about parenting, school pickups, and student schedules. The kind of open-source information that most people didn't think twice about sharing. Emma's mom had posted on a neighborhood app, Harris said quietly, asking if anyone could pick her daughter up last month when her car broke down. The post included Emma's name, grade, and what she looked like. Martinez nodded slowly. He only needed a few breadcrumbs. Meanwhile, Emma was in the counselor's office coloring quietly. She didn't cry. She hadn't cried since the incident, but she had stopped walking to class alone. She stayed close to adults and barely said a word unless Bruno was nearby. Bruno, for his part, had become a silent presence in her recovery. He would lay beside her during story time, or sit beside her backpack during lunch. No barking, no growling, just steady loyalty. I feel like he talks to me. Without talking, Emma said one afternoon. The counselor smiled. He's saying you're safe now. That same day, Detective Olivia Reyes came down from the county to meet with Martinez and Kessler, the FBI liaison still stationed nearby. What concerns me most, Reyes said, opening a laptop, is the pattern. Denton isn't new to this. He's careful, patient. We track 2 other school alerts in neighboring counties with almost identical tactics. He's not just working alone. Martinez frowned. You think there's a group, maybe not a formal one, but these guys follow each other, share methods, tips, places. They look for opportunity. Schools with lack systems, single parents with routines, kids who walk home alone. She clicked to the next screen. A chat log excerpt from one of Denton's apps. Found a soft pickup site near the back lot. Easy in and out. If this one's not ready, someone else can try. Bruno's ears twitched beside the table. Martinez's jaw tightened. He was willing to hand her off like a delivery route. That's exactly what it is to them, Reyes said. Business, targeting, strategy. Later that week, the school hosted an emergency evening assembly for parents. No press, no students, just raw facts. They played the footage, edited, of course, showing Denton's arrival, the moment he called to Emma, and Bruno's sudden charge. There was no narration, no dramatic music, just silence. One mother covered her mouth. Another father stood with clenched fists. Someone in the back whispered, "That could have been my daughter." Harris stepped to the mic after the video ended. We train for fires, for storms, even for lockdowns, he began. But what happened this week reminded us that sometimes the threat walks up, wearing a smile and calling your child's name. He looked down at Bruno, who sat calmly at his feet, vest buckled, eyes scanning the crowd. This dog didn't just save a child. He reminded us to stay awake to protect our village. In the following days, the school launched a volunteer-led safety patrol. Parents rotated shifts watching pickup and drop-off lanes. New ID systems were installed, and Bruno, now with a Hero K9 badge stitched onto his vest, became the school's full-time guardian. But it wasn't over. Denton's online history led Investigators to a hidden drive buried. In his garage, encrypted and labeled as tax documents. When decrypted, it revealed profiles, names, schools, photos, more than 30 children in 5 states with timestamps, notes, and detailed schedules. It was a chilling discovery, but it gave law enforcement the chance to act. 3 arrests were made within the week. People connected through the same chat rooms Denton used. More are under investigation. Bruno wasn't just a hero. He was the reason other kids might be saved before it's too late. One afternoon, Emma came to school with a handmade card. On the front was a crayon drawing of her and Bruno. She had drawn him taller than her. Big paws, a wagging tail, and a thought bubble that said, "You're not going anywhere near my girl." Inside, she wrote in her wobbly 4th grade handwriting, "Thank you for barking when I didn't know I should be scared. Thank you for keeping me here. Thank you for not letting him win." Martinez read it, folded it carefully, and put it in his locker right next to Bruno's original K9 badge. The day the encrypted drive was decrypted, the case stopped being about one little girl and one heroic dog. Became something far bigger. A folder, initially disguised as 2022 tax prep, held a detailed spreadsheet that felt less like data and more like a predator's playbook. Each row included a child's name, age, photo, school, and, most chilling, behavioral notes. Walks home alone every Wednesday. Parent leaves for work before school opens. Often waits at back gate. Unsupervised. There were 32 children. That list, Emma was number 8. When Detective Reyes saw the file, she didn't say a word for almost a full minute. Her jaw was tight. Her eyes scanned line after line with increasing disgust. "These kids don't even know they're being hunted," she finally whispered. "They think they're walking home going to math class, but someone's taking notes, like their products on the shelf." Martinez stood in the corner of the command center, arms crossed, Bruno resting near his boots. The dog wasn't restless. He was reading the room like always, sensing the spike in heart rate. The way silence feels different when danger's near. Agent Kessler, the FBI liaison still assigned to the case, shook her head. "We're no longer looking at an isolated incident. This is a trafficking structure, organized, methodical." She pointed to 3 usernames found in Denton's messaging, each one connected to posts that mirrored the behavioral notes found in the file. One of those usernames had already appeared in a child luring attempt at a school in neighboring Franklin County. They hadn't known the cases were related until Bruno made them look closer. Back in Willow Ridge, parents were still clinging tightly to their kids. Attendance had dropped the first few days after the incident, but it slowly rebounded. Teachers added a layer of social-emotional learning to every class, talking to students about safe adults, about instincts, about listening to their feelings when something felt wrong. And Bruno, he was now as much a part of the school as the flagpole. He walked the halls in the mornings, laid near the cafeteria during lunch, and sat beside the nurse's office. When kids needed someone quiet to lean, no one questioned it anymore. They needed him. It was during one of those quiet lunch periods that Emma looked up from her seat and asked Officer Martinez, "Do you think there are more girls like Me. Martinez sat down across from her. What do you mean? I mean girls who almost got tricked but didn't because of a dog. He looked at Bruno lying by their feet. Yeah, he said. I think there are. And I think some of them never even knew they were in danger. Nodded slowly. I hope they have a Bruno. Ooh. Meanwhile, the investigation moved fast. Reyes coordinated with child protection units across multiple states. Each name on Denton's list became a priority. Were they safe? Did anyone try to approach them? Had there been any suspicious activity nearby? One by one, the story started surfacing. In Tulsa, a mother reported a strange man loitering near her daughter's bus stop 3 weeks prior. In Phoenix, a second grader came home with a note in her backpack, unsigned saying, "You're special." In Columbus, a girl said a man offered her a ride and knew the name of her school principal. None of these were reported at the time. They hadn't seemed serious. Until now. The FBI launched what they called Operation ShadowNet, an active mission to hunt down the users behind the usernames tied to Denton's messages. Search warrants were issued. Digital footprints were traced. IPs were located. Devices seized. Out of the original 32 children, 6 had been approached in some way. 3 of those families hadn't even known it had happened. But Bruno's story had sparked something. Awareness. At Willow Ridge, Principal Harris worked with the PTA to bring in trauma counselors and online safety experts. They held workshops titled What Predators Don't Want You to Know and handed out illustrated books teaching children how to trust their instincts. Parents began double-checking their privacy settings, deleting old posts, and updating who had pickup permissions. At the school, and every single family knew one name, Bruno. One Thursday morning, the school held a quiet indoor assembly. It wasn't on the calendar. No press, no photographers, just kids, teachers, and Bruno. Principal Harris stepped onto the small stage and held a microphone in one hand and a plaque in the other. This is not just for what he did last week, Harris began. It's for what his courage continues to uncover. He turned the plaque around to show the engraved title. One bark saved many. Bruno wagged his tail once, then laid down. Emma clapped first, then the entire room erupted. Later that afternoon, Martinez walked Bruno past the playground. "No, you don't understand awards," he said, scratching behind Bruno's ears. "You just do what's right. No fuss, no noise, just instincts." Bruno gave a quiet huff in response, nose twitching toward the breeze. But Martinez knew something had shifted. Bruno hadn't just stopped one van. He had exposed a network, changed a system, saved other kids who may never know his name, but whose lives would be untouched by danger because a dog refused to be fooled by a smile. That evening, as Martinez filed paperwork and logged evidence tags at the precinct, he paused by the bulletin board. There, pinned beneath a newspaper headline about the case, was a hand-drawn picture. It was a girl holding a leash attached to a massive, grinning German shepherd. Above them were the words, "He didn't just protect me. He barked for all of us." Martinez left the drawing there. He didn't need anything else to remind him. The world had changed, and it started with one growl at the exact right moment. The success of Operation Shadowette brought relief, pride, and a dangerous sense of closure. People wanted to believe the worst was over. 32 names, dozens of arrests, and a community that had come together thanks to a dog who refused to back down. But law enforcement knew better. For every file recovered, every suspect cuffed, there was always one that got away. And in this case, that person wasn't just online, he was watching. 2 weeks after Bruno's story aired on regional news, a quiet town 3 hours away reported an attempted abduction in a mall parking lot. 10-year-old girl walking just a few steps ahead of her mom was lured by a man promising to show her puppies in the back of his car. The girl hesitated, and that pause was enough. Her mom screamed. The man ran. Surveillance footage showed him wearing a hat pulled low, sunglasses, nondescript clothes, but the footage also showed a patch on his sleeve, a small sleigh embroidered in red and gold, the same symbol Reyes had seen on other suspects tied to Denton's network. But this man, he hadn't shown up in any of the recovered chats. He was something else, and it meant the operation wasn't done. Back in Willow Ridge, life had slowly returned to normal. Emma was smiling again, even telling jokes. Bruno still did his daily rounds, but he seemed more relaxed until one Friday afternoon when something shifted. It started small. A black pickup truck parked across the street from the school. Engine off. Windows tinted. Not illegal. Not especially suspicious. But Bruno stared at it hard. He didn't bark, didn't move, just watched. And when the truck left 5 minutes later, Bruno followed it with his eyes until it disappeared. Martinez noticed. "You don't usually do that," he murmured. The next morning, Martinez pulled up. Security footage. The same truck had driven past the school 3 times that week, each time slowing down near the east gate, then circling the block. No license plate match, no registered owner in the area. He called Reyes. "We've got someone circling," he said. "And Bruno's reacting." Reyes didn't hesitate. "I'm coming." That Monday, FBI surveillance teams set up discreet monitoring posts around the school. Parents weren't told. The staff kept teaching and Bruno kept patrolling. 3 days passed. Nothing. Then came Thursday. At 2:41 p.m., as students lined up for dismissal, the black truck appeared again, this time parking just outside the crosswalk zone. The driver didn't get out, but he held up a phone, angled like he was taking pictures or recording. Bruno growled low. Martinez narrowed his eyes. "I need a tag check. Now," he said into the radio. But before dispatch could respond, the driver started the engine. Martin acted fast. He dropped Bruno's leash. "Go." Bruno bolted across the grass, barking furiously. The truck lurched forward, tires screeching. But the dog was faster. He reached the rear door, teeth barbared and snapped at the handle. The truck jerked to the left, crashing into a fire hydrant. Steam and water exploded upward. The driver flung open the door and tried to run. Bruno chased. Martinez followed. Seconds behind, radioing. Suspect on foot, eastbound, black jeans, gray hoodie. Bruno in pursuit. The man cut through yards, jumped a fence, ran into an alley. Bruno never lost ground. By the time Martinez turned the corner, he found the man pinned against a dumpster, Bruno's teeth inches from his leg, growling with a sound that made even trained officers hesitate. Easy, Bruno, Martinez said, stepping forward, with his cuffs ready. Let's do this by the book. The suspect was identified as Jared Price, age 39, former IT contractor, recently unemployed. No criminal record, but his online presence was dark encrypted forums, hidden folders. One of those folders titled Recruits. Inside were photos of 4 children. One of them was Emma. I never touched her, Price said during questioning. I was just watching, gathering info. That's all I did. But Reyes didn't buy it. You were gathering inventory, she said coldly. And if Bruno hadn't stopped you, we might never have found you. Price stayed silent, but the silence spoke volumes. When Martinez told Emma's mom, she turned white. He came back, she whispered. He was still watching her. Martinez nodded. We think he never left. He stayed under the radar. Waited until we let our guard down. She wiped her eyes, but Bruno didn't. That night, the school held an emergency staff meeting. Harris, flanked by Martinez and Reyes, addressed the faculty. We're all tired. We all want to move on, but we can't afford to stop being careful. He pointed toward Bruno, lying quietly in the back of the room. He didn't stop. And that's why Emma is still safe. Reyes added, this isn't about paranoia. It's about awareness. And if your gut tells you something feels wrong, even if it's subtle, follow. In the following days, Jared Price was officially linked to a wider web of forum users who never directly communicated, but followed the same grooming patterns using school routines and social media breadcrumbs. Price admitted to attending local school events just to observe. He'd even taken notes during a PTA open house pretending to be a volunteer. He knew the teachers' names. He knew dismissal schedules, and he knew which children walked home alone. But he didn't know one thing, that a dog was watching him the whole time. Bruno received another commendation. This one came from the FBI. They didn't just call him a K9. They called him a force multiplier because his instincts didn't just protect a child. They revealed what technology, data, and training couldn't. As spring rolled into summer, the community shifted again. This time not with fear but with determination. New programs were put in place. More guards were hired. Background checks went deeper, and every new hire met Bruno first, because if Bruno didn't trust you, neither did the school. One afternoon, as Martinez and Bruno walked the playground perimeter, Emma ran up with a friend. Mr. Martinez, she called. Can we give Bruno a treat? He smiled. Sure, but you got to ask him first. She knelt down and held out her hand. Bruno sniffed it, tail wagging gently. Emma smiled. I think he still remembers me. Martinez looked at her, then at the wide-open sky above the school. Yeah, he said. And he always will. Bruno was never trained to be a therapist. He couldn't pass out worksheets, lead support groups, or speak to a room full of parents in a comforting voice. But in the weeks following Jared Price's arrest, that dog, with his quiet presence and watchful eyes, did more to help a shaken community than any counselor ever could. He didn't have to say anything. He just had to be there. And he was every single day. At Willow Ridge Elementary, life didn't go back to normal. It moved into something new. A place of deeper awareness, sharper instincts, and yes, a strange but beautiful kind of unity. Parents still showed up to volunteer, but now they rotated through a formalized safety watch program. Officer Martinez trained each one, personally showing them how to spot suspicious behavior, how to report quietly, and most importantly, how to trust their gut. Every visitor, no matter how familiar, was checked. Every gate, every pickup, every face was watched, and through it all Bruno remained the silent heartbeat of it all. Emma, who had once been terrified to walk alone, now walked with pride. Not because she felt fearless, but because she felt protected. She would often stop by the front office after school just to say hi to Bruno, slipping him one of his favorite liver treats or handing over a drawing she'd made that day. He always wagged his tail when she came. He always smiled a little more when he did. By mid-May, the school district decided to honor Bruno publicly. They arranged a community event at the town center. Not a festival, not a parade, but a gathering of gratitude. Flyers went up across town. Join us in honoring Bruno the K9 who didn't just protect one child, but reminded us to protect them all. On the day of the event, families filled the green space behind the library. Picnic blankets dotted the lawn. Lemonade stands stood beside information booths about online safety, and a local vet clinic even set up a thank a hero dog petting station. Martinez arrived with Bruno in his patrol SUV. But the moment they stepped out, the quiet murmurs turned into applause. Kids clapped like they were watching a superhero walk off the pages of a comic book. Parents clapped like they knew what might have happened if Bruno hadn't barked. And somewhere in the crowd, Emma held up a sign she made with glitter glue and construction paper. He barked for me. When Principal Harris took the mic, he didn't talk about arrests or police investigations. He talked about what trust looks like. Bruno didn't know who Emma was when he blocked that van. He didn't know her mom or what grade she was in or where she lived. What he knew, what he felt was that something was wrong, and he did something we humans sometimes forget to do. He acted on it. He paused, then added, that instinct saved more than one life. The mayor presented Bruno with a golden collar tag shaped like a shield. On it was engraved, Brun, Guardian of Willow Ridge. When Martinez leaned down to hook it onto Bruno's vest, the dog simply sat still, tail thumping once against the grass. Later that night, Martinez walked Bruno along their usual route down Oak Street and past the old fire station. The sky was painted with soft oranges and purples, the sun slipping behind rooftops like a tired lantern. You changed everything, buddy, he said. Bruno didn't react with excitement or pride. He just walked, still alert, still reading the world like every sidewalk hit a story. They passed by a neighbor's porch where an older man in a rocking chair tipped his hat. Thank you for what you did, officer, he said. That dog of yours is a gift. Martinez smiled. He's more than that. Inside his home, Martinez poured a cup of coffee while Bruno rested by the front door. He flipped through the local paper, half distracted until a small envelope slipped out from between the pages. No return address, just his name. Inside was a simple card. No glitter, no handwriting except 3 words scrolled in a child's print. He saved me. There was no signature. But Martinez knew it. Wasn't just Emma who had been saved. Bruno had barked for every kid who'd ever felt uneasy. For every parent who worried but couldn't explain why. For every moment that nearly slipped past unnoticed. In the weeks that followed, Bruno's story traveled beyond Willow Ridge. Regional news outlet featured him in a segment titled The Dog Who Knew. First, schools in nearby counties reached out to Martinez asking how to start their own K-9 safety programs. And one morning, Martinez opened his inbox to find a message from a school in Texas. "We had a close call at pickup last week, but your story made us update our security. We stopped the wrong person at the right time. Thank Bruno for us." But Bruno didn't care about recognition. He cared about the next shift. He showed up every day like he had on the first. Same alert eyes, same steady trot beside Martinez. If a parent lingered too long, he watched. If a car idled too close, he sat and stared. If a child looked uncertain, he walked over. He didn't need a badge. He didn't need medals. He just needed to know the pack was safe. One quiet morning in June before the final week of school, Martinez sat on the steps of the school as kids began to arrive. Bruno lay next to him, paws crossed, tongue lazily hanging out. Emma walked up with her mom, holding a small box wrapped in blue paper. "It's for him," she said. Inside was a leather collar tag with silver lettering. Read, "Thank you for barking when I couldn't." Martinez swallowed hard. Bruno licked Emma's hand. The last week of school always felt different, lighter. Somehow like the air itself was packing up its binders and heading for summer break. Students buzzed through hallways with yearbooks in hand, laughing as they traded candy, selfies, and signatures. Teachers smiled with that particular mix of joy and exhaustion that comes only in June. And through it all, Bruno was there, just as he'd always been. He didn't know it was the last week of school. He didn't know the staff had voted to name the new outdoor reading area Bruno's garden, or that a local artist had been commissioned to paint a mural of him and Emma on the east hallway wall. But maybe he felt it, the shift, the way people paused to look at him a little longer, the way kids patted his back just a little slower, more intentionally. Bruno didn't ask for any of it. He was just doing what he was born to do, protect the pack. On Tuesday, Martinez found an envelope in his office mailbox. Inside was a letter written in careful cursive on lined paper. It had no return name, but the last line told him everything. "Thank you for letting me keep my daughter." He folded the letter and tucked it into the pocket behind Bruno's certificate from the FBI. He didn't need to know who wrote it. He knew enough. Bruno had changed lives quietly, permanently. The final day of school arrived with all the usual fanfare. Parents stood in the sunshine, with phones raised, snapping pictures of kids holding last day signs. Teachers handed out report cards and summer reading lists. Backpacks were bursting with glitter crafts, sticky granola bars, and lopsided clay art projects. Emma showed up wearing a shirt that read, "Brun is my bodyguard." She wasn't scared anymore. She hadn't been since that day in the parking lot when Bruno stood between her and danger without hesitation. And now she stood taller, spoke louder, trusted herself. The afternoon dismissal line moved slowly as parents hugged teachers. Goodbye, and kids loaded up into SUVs, minivans, and school buses. Martinez and Bruno stood by the main gate, watching each child walk out safe and free. When Emma and her mom reached the gate, she knelt to hug Bruno one last time before summer. "You can take a break now." "Okay," she whispered into his ear. "We're okay." Bruno licked her cheek. Once and for just a second Martinez thought he saw something. Maybe understanding, maybe acknowledgement, maybe just the soft ending of something big. That evening, the school held a private retirement ceremony, not for a person, but for Bruno. They called it a transition, not an ending. After all, Bruno wasn't going far. He'd be officially retired from daily patrols, but would still live with Martinez, still visit school once a week for therapy sessions with the kids, still show up for safety drills and assemblies. But he'd finally get to rest, to sleep in, to play fetch in the backyard instead of watching the front gate. The principal, a man known more for spreadsheets than speeches, stepped to the mic and cleared his throat. "We talk a lot about data in schools," he began. "Test scores, attendance, metrics. But some things you can't measure. You can't graph a child's sense of safety. You can't assign a score to instinct." He turned to Bruno, lying near the stage, ears perked. "But we know this because of one dog, 32 names turned into 32 kids, who got to keep being kids." The room stood and applauded, not with fireworks or fanfare, but with respect, gratitude, and love. That night, Martinez and Bruno sat on the back porch, fireflies blinking lazily in the tall grass. "You did it, buddy," Martinez said quietly. "You didn't just catch the bad guy, you gave people something to believe in again." Bruno rested his head on Martinez's boot. "I know you can't stay forever," Martinez continued. "But what you've done, that stays." He looked up at the stars, then back down at his friend. "That bark, it saved her life. And it saved ours, too." Over the next few months, Bruno's story made its way into books, podcasts, and news specials. He became a symbol not just of safety, but of instinct, of unspoken courage, of doing the right thing even when no one else saw the threat. Teachers in other districts requested K-9 units. Parents reconsidered online sharing. Kids everywhere learned a new kind of heroism. Quiet, loyal, and powerful. Sometimes life doesn't give us sirens or warning signs when something's wrong. Whispers. It shifts. It hides behind smiles and smooth voices. And in those moments when everything looks normal but feels just a little off, that's when instinct matters most. Bruno didn't stop a van because he had evidence. He didn't growl because someone looked scary. He acted because something was wrong, even when no one else could see it. That's what heroes do. Not just with barking or chasing or protecting, but by trusting their gut and standing between the innocent and the unthinkable. So maybe the world needs fewer superpowers and more Brunos, more people, more dogs willing to listen to the silence and still say, "This isn't right, and I won't let it happen."